I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come. I want to thank Reverend Cummings for giving that invocation. We really appreciate that. And I also want to thank Geneva and Natalie for their singing of the national anthem. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. And Marble Country kids, you guys are awesome. Your youth, your vigor, and your hope for our country inspires me to run this race. You guys are a great bunch of kids. I think it's important that all of you know that I am pro-veteran. My opponent has veteran signs all over his signs, but I am very pro-veteran. We have a son in the Navy stationed at Naval Special Warfare Command, Naval Amphibious Base, Coronado, California. He is a fierce soldier, and he's fighting for our country. His wife, who is our daughter-in-law, served in the United States Army, and she served in Iraq and Afghanistan. She was a logistics coordinator for the Army. And we're very proud of them, and we're also very proud of every man and woman that has served in the military for our country, past and present. So anybody here that is a veteran or is currently serving our country in the military, please stand. We want to recognize you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This being an election year, I would like any current and former elected officials or people running for office this year to please stand up and be recognized. Thank you very much. And I want to introduce my wife of 42 years who has been a wonderful person to live my life with. And Vicki, would you please stand up? I've asked Reverend Matthew Cummings to bring some of his literature, and he has a table back here. He is doing a special event coming up in a week or so, September 13th through the 15th at the Clayton Community Fairgrounds. And please stop by the table and pick up some information on that. He is going to have Susie McIntyre, who's a country and gospel singer, performing there. And this is Reba McIntyre's sister. So it's going to be a great event, and he's got tickets back there, so please visit him. I also invited Renee Holiday. She's the author of The Perils of Sustainable Development, and she has some of her books back there. Her book is filled with excellent information if you're interested in seeing why we have all of the massive regulations coming against us with regards to private properties. So I encourage you to take a look at that book, but I encourage you to read it. It's full of powerful information. All right, the first thing I want you to know about me is that I am very passionate about private property rights. I believe private property rights are unalienable, and it is the responsibility of elected officials to protect those rights, not infringe upon them. James Madison said, quote, "Government is instituted no less for protection of property than of the persons of individuals. In short, private property rights are unalienable rights." Now, an unalienable right is a right that cannot be transferred. Another way to say it is a right that is unalienable. In other words, your property cannot be taken away from you by the government or anybody else. Right. We have a window of opportunity right now to alter the path that civil government is leading us down. The path of less and less freedom and more control. We must alter this course so we can begin restoring the freedoms we have lost and regain control of the property that we own. Our Constitution of the State of Washington was adopted August 22nd, 1889. It's only 38 pages long. Today, the Revised Code of Washington, the RCWs, are over 20,000 pages. The total number of laws imposed on we the people by our government exceeds 3 million. And I don't think any of us know what all 3 million of those laws are. William Blackstone, whose work on English common law provided guidance to the framers of the Constitution of the United States, said, quote, "No enactment of man can be considered law unless it conforms to the law of God," end quote. William Blackstone understood that God's way and God's law is far superior to man's way and man's law. And I agree with Blackstone's statement. Our poster advertising this rally states, "Property taxes are theft." Please note, I am only referring to property taxes. And I base this statement on Psalm 24:1. "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof." The Lord is sovereign over this land, not the state of Washington. So the question is, do we choose God's way, which is dominion? Whoops. Sorry about that. Or do we choose man's way, which is domination? I will answer that question at the end of my speech. So my background, my education, I graduated from Humboldt State University with a business degree. Emphasis was in management. But the greatest thing I got out of Humboldt State University was my wife. I also graduated from the College for Financial Planning with the degree as a certified financial planner. And I also did graduate studies in the financial planning field at Golden Gate University. My experience includes owning a broker-dealer securities firm for 16 years, a real estate brokerage firm for 12 years, and I also taught college-level appraisal classes, primarily to people wanting to get their broker's license in real estate because it was a required course to have that. And then the last 10 years or so, I have been doing retirement consulting for people. I'm honored to have the endorsement of the Stevens County Republican Central Committee. In addition, I am the recommended candidate for Stevens County Assessor by We Believe, We Vote. We Believe, We Vote makes voter recommendations for contested races based on a biblical and constitutional model for governance. As your assessor, I will bring leadership, accountability, and efficiency to the office. I will work hard to serve the citizens of Stevens County and work as a team player with the other elected officials. Once I am in office, I will encourage our staff to be problem solvers for the benefit of our citizens. I view the position of Stevens County Assessor to be an intervening protectorate for the citizens from overregulation and heavy-handedness by the state. We need to have an assessor's office that serves the people. We need to make tax lien foreclosure sales a thing of the past. According to Leslie Balls, our Stevens County treasurer, she stated at this year's Lincoln's Day dinner that 5 properties were lost to tax lien foreclosures in 2016, and another 5 properties were lost to tax lien foreclosures in 2017. As far as I'm concerned, this is 10 too many. The least we can do is enact RCW 84.48.140, which talks about property tax advisors. This is what it says. The county legislative authority in any county may designate one or more persons to act as a property tax advisor to any person liable for payment of property taxes in the county. By doing this, we can help resolve tax delinquencies so they can keep their property, which is of utmost importance to me. This is problem solving as far as I'm concerned. In the 1930s, we lost 30% of our population because we had a major economic catastrophe. And 30% of the owners of the properties lost their properties to tax lien foreclosures. So we lose 30% of the population, and 30% of the people lost their properties. 4 years ago, my opponent was asked, what safeguards and contingency plans are being made to prevent massive property losses in the event of another significant economic downturn? His answer was, that won't happen again. I disagree. My 42 years of experience in the financial services field tells me it will happen again. We just don't know when. Anybody that studies cycles knows it will happen again. You know, we have had a robust economy for the past 10 years since the 2008-2009 decline. Our robust economies generally in cycles don't last over 10 years, and we're coming up to that 10-year point coming up here in October. So we just need to, I think, make some contingency plans as a county. Your elected officials must have open discussions about this because our most valuable asset in this county are the people that live here. We need to upgrade the assessor's website, property search program to make sure it's more user-friendly, reinstating the name search feature so that enhancing the map details. The system is in place to do this at no additional cost to the taxpayers. By doing so, we will enhance the private sector economy by increasing efficiencies, which increases productivity and cuts expenses. It is beneficial to property buyers, property sellers, real estate brokers, title and escrow companies, lending institutions, appraisers, and law firms that handle real estate transactions. Your government needs to work for you, not against you. We need to upgrade the assessor's website to make sure we provide accurate information to the citizens of Stevens County. When inaccurate information is purported to be accurate on a government website, it can have extremely adverse consequences to the private sector. Problems arise in the private sector when wrong information is on the assessor's website. And I'm going to give you an example of a real estate transaction that took place this year here in Colville. I have verified the following information with the real estate broker, with the lender, and the information obtained from the assessor's website. The property is located on Valley West Side Road, Colville, Washington. The first thing I noticed on the assessor's site was the property taxes on this piece of property are 10.35% higher in 2018 than they were in 2017. I always look at those numbers first because I don't like our taxes going up that fast. I didn't get a wage increase of 10% the first of the year, and I doubt very many people did. The second thing I noticed on the assessor's site was the property was, quote, appraised at $166,000. What I want to know is who did the appraisal for the assessor. The assessor's office only does assessments, not appraisals, according to Title 84 of the RCWs. When the lender saw the word, quote, appraised on the assessor's website, they threw out the private sector appraisal and went with the lower valuation. Now the buyer could not get the loan needed to close the deal since the property was listed for $239,000. This created an extreme time delay in this transaction and also at a time when interest rates are rising. The value issue is finally cleared up. The assessor's website stated that the home was built in 1982. The revised value of the home was based on this information. Lo and behold, it turns out the home was built in 1920. That's only a difference of 62 years. Another delay ensued. After much turmoil, angst, and expenses, this transaction did finally close. The government cost us money to serve us, and in this case, the government cost all the folks involved in this transaction additional money. The problems created were a direct result of erroneous information on the assessor's website. When elected, I will show up in my office on a regular basis, consistent basis, to make sure the information on the website is accurate. The assessor's position is a full-time position. We need to simplify forms and paperwork requirements so our citizens are not so overwhelmed when applying for tax exemptions or tax deferral programs, applying for a change in property classification, or making an appeal regarding assessed valuation. As your assessor, I will view the County Board of Equalization as a valuable tool to evaluate me and my staff. We need to prepare an annual budget that is zero-based, that identifies all expenditures with clarity and accuracy. We need to be fully accountable to the citizens of Stevens County. Finally, we need to make sure the assessments are fair and equitable. There are many assessments in this county of virtually identical properties with huge valuation differences, and this must be corrected. Did you know the Stevens County Republican platform states, quote, "State education funding should not be garnered from the property taxes, but by revenue generated from state lands and assets such as natural resource income," end quote. Now this position is in direct alignment with the Washington State Constitution, Article 9, Section 3, funds for support of education shall come from, quote, "the proceeds of the sale of timber, stone, minerals, or other property from school and state lands," end quote. By implementing this constitutional platform position, private property owners would save, on average, statewide, 56% on property taxes, and this is according to the Department of Revenue.
Right.
So let's get involved. Let's get involved and hold our politicians' feet to the fire to obey the Washington Constitution and implement this platform position, thereby cutting property taxes in half statewide. I am not interested in polishing brass on a sinking ship. I would rather focus my energies on steering the ship out of troubled waters. Would you please join me in this effort? I hope so.
Yes.
Thank you. Over the years, I have been very involved in promoting property rights. I have opposed GMA, which is the Growth Management Act, since its inception. Bottom line, it gives government control of your property. That's as simply as I can put it. I tried to convince our commissioners years ago not to comply with GMA. Our only county commissioner, Tony Delgado, agreed with me. He's the only one. Many counties around the nation have said no to GMA. Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, as states, have said no to GMA. I believe we should say no as well.
Right.
Did you know that the Stevens County Republican platform also states, quote, "Growth management planning should be locally driven and controlled by county elected officials, not state and not federal unelected bureaucrats, but by county elected officials." The Stevens County Assessor is a county elected official. This platform position directly lines up with Commissioner Steve Parker's campaign slogan, bringing government back home. When Republican candidates are vetted by the Stevens County Republican Central Committee, we were asked if we agree with the Stevens County Republican platform. And I believe it's a great platform, and I fully agree with it. "We believe we vote" stated that my opponent is, quote, "indifferent about GMA," end quote. Now, how can an elected official be indifferent about GMA when its proponents want to destroy private property rights? Here are some of their statements. This is Peter Burrell, the National Audubon Society, quote, "We reject the idea of private property," end quote. Thomas Lovejoy, science advisor to the Department of Interior, said, "We will map the whole nation, determine development for the whole country, and regulate it all." Paul Watson, co-founder of Greenpeace, quote, "It doesn't matter what is true. It only matters what people believe is true," end quote. Stevens County is required by the state of Washington to complete an update of the county's growth management plan by 2020. All your elected officials need to be held accountable by you, the citizens, to make sure they are making every effort to meet our county standards and our county culture and not kowtow to Olympia's unconstitutional bureaucratic mandates. Let's remind them Say no, like so many other counties across the nation have done already. You need to know that I take the oath of office very seriously, and that oath states in part, I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. We must work hard to get our cultural values and standards back in Stevens County and get Olympia off our backs. Excuse me. We must work hard to restore our property rights. In the early 1990s, when Agenda 21 was targeting the state of Washington, we had a great Washington Supreme Court justice. His name was Richard B. Sanders. He understood the federal and state agencies that were undergoing massive land grabs in the name of conservation in violation of the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. That's when Justice Sanders wrote a Fifth Amendment treatise which included the following definition of property rights. Listen carefully to this definition. Quote, property is a thing, simply states, life, liberty, property. We must take dominion over our property and not allow government to dominate it. I sincerely hope you will vote for Rick Johnson for Stevens County Assessor in November. Thank you very much. I appreciate you very much.